Welcome to College Briefing. The content of the briefing includes: Rishi Sunak is picking a fight on the migration issue that he probably cannot win. Texas Supreme Court temporarily halts order that allowed pregnant woman to have abortion. 3 victims of UNLV shooting remembered as dedicated and inspiring educators. Oil is everywhere at COP28, vexing activists seeking its demise. 2 students claim the University of Pennsylvania has violated the Civil Rights Act by not protecting Jewish students from anti-Semitism on campus. But Rishi Sunak is picking a fight on the migration issue that he probably cannot win. CNN. UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak is trying to bring down the country's net migration numbers, leaning into the Conservatives' historical trump card issue, immigration. The UK's net migration reached a record high of 745,000 in 2022, partly due to generous policies to welcome people fleeing Ukraine and Hong Kong. Small boat crossings across the English Channel have increased significantly, with 45,755 people detected doing so in 2022, compared to 299 in 2018. Sunak has made stopping the boats one of his 5 key priorities, inheriting a controversial plan to send refugees to Rwanda instead of allowing them to stay in the UK. However, courts have prevented the UK from sending anyone to Rwanda due to human rights concerns. Sunak has unveiled a bill designed to block any legal reason that planes are not flying people to Rwanda, but his immigration minister resigned and the government may lose a vote on the bill. Brexit campaigner Nigel Farage has been using his media profile to talk about small boats, forcing some on the right of the Conservative Party to call for tough action on immigration. Some have even suggested holding a referendum on the UK's membership of the European Court of Human Rights in the Conservative manifesto. Sunak risks looking cruel on the left, while the Conservatives risk losing voters who recognize the benefits of migrant labour and feel their concerns over immigration have been addressed. Texas Supreme Court temporarily halts order that allowed pregnant woman to have abortion. Washington Post. The Texas Supreme Court has temporarily halted an order allowing a woman who is 20 weeks pregnant to get an abortion. The case involves Kate Cox, a 31-year-old mother of 2 from the Dallas area, who asked for legal help in obtaining an emergency abortion in Texas after she learned last week that her fetus had trisomy 18, also called Edwards syndrome. The genetic condition is one that cannot sustain life. Cox's doctor warned that carrying the pregnancy to term could jeopardize her health and future fertility, including uterine rupture and hysterectomy, according to the lawsuit filed on her behalf. 3 victims of UNLV shooting remembered as dedicated and inspiring educators. Yahoo! Naoko Takamaro, 69, was named as the 3rd victim of the University of Nevada campus shooting on Friday. The first victim was Patricia Navarro-Velez and the second victim named was Jerry Chan. The police were called to the scene at 11:45 a.m. on Wednesday. The gunman was shot and killed by the police. The university's medical school does not take body donations, but Chan will donate his body to another institution for medical research, according to his colleague, Kia-Chun Tan. Oil is everywhere at COP28, vexing activists seeking its demise. Bloomberg. The fossil fuel industry is facing criticism for its prominent presence at the United Nations COP28 Climate Summit, which is being hosted by the United Arab Emirates, UAE, one of the world's largest oil exporters. Almost 2,500 representatives of the industry have been granted access to the summit, nearly 4 times the number at COP27 in 2020. The industry has been attending under the umbrella of influence groups such as the International Emissions Trading Association. At the summit, oil and gas companies have been promoting technologies such as carbon capture and storage. The industry's presence has been controversial, with some activists arguing that the companies most responsible for the climate crisis should not be given a seat at the negotiating table. Others have argued that a broad coalition of stakeholders is needed to tackle the climate crisis. The most contentious issue at the summit is whether the final agreement will pledge to phase down fossil fuels. 2 students claim the University of Pennsylvania has violated the Civil Rights Act by not protecting Jewish students from anti-Semitism on campus. CNN. 2 Jewish students at the University of Pennsylvania have filed a lawsuit against the institution, claiming that it has become an incubation lab for virulent anti-Jewish hatred, harassment and discrimination. The students have accused the university of failing to enforce its own policies and protect Jewish students, both before and after the attack on Israel by Hamas on October 7. They claim that Jewish students have been subject to targeted harassment by faculty members and peers. The students are seeking damages and the establishment of policies to protect Jewish students. Harvard, UPenn and MIT presidents face backlash after hearing on anti-Semitism on campus. Here's what's happening. Yahoo! Second Gentleman Doug Emhoff singled out 3 university presidents on Thursday after they didn't explicitly say during a congressional hearing that calling for genocide of Jews would violate their codes of conduct for bullying and harassment. Seeing the presidents of some of our most elite universities literally unable to denounce calling for the genocide of Jews as anti-Semitic, that lack of moral clarity is simply unacceptable, Emhoff said at a ceremony to light the national menorah near the White House on the first night of Hanukkah, which also marked 2 months since Hamas unleashed a brutal attack on Israel that killed around 1,200 people. Let me be clear. When Jews are targeted because of their beliefs or identity and when Israel is singled out because of anti-Jewish hatred, that is anti-Semitism. And it must be condemned and condemned unequivocally and without context, Emhoff said. Frantic 911 callers from UNLV reported seeing unfamiliar man in campus building. Yahoo! Audio recordings of 911 calls made during the University of Nevada shooting in January have been released by the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. The gunman, Anthony Polito, a former professor, was killed by responding officers after having shot dead 3 people and wounded a 4th. Included among the victims were 2 professors and a business professor. The calls, which were made by students, employees, and their families, captured the panic of the moment as the shooting unfolded. DeSantis, Haley and Ramaswamy will appear in Northwest Iowa days after a combative GOP debate. Associated Press. Republican presidential candidates Ron DeSantis, Nikki Haley, and Vivek Ramaswamy will participate in a discussion on faith, family, and politics in Iowa. The event, hosted by Representative Randy Feenstra and his wife, Lynette, will take place at Dordt University in Sioux Center. This comes as the countdown to the Iowa caucuses, the first nominating event for Republicans, nears the 1-month mark. Former President Donald Trump, who remains popular among Republicans, will not be attending the event. The 3 candidates last appeared together in Iowa at a roundtable discussion held by the family leader. They are set to participate in a Republican debate at Drake University in Des Moines just 5 days before the caucuses. From urchin crushing to lab-grown kelp, efforts to save California's kelp forests show promise. Associated Press. Volunteers in California are taking part in initiatives to save the state's kelp forests, which have been largely destroyed by purple urchins. The urchins have thrived due to the disappearance of their main predator, the sunflower sea star, which has been decimated by a wasting disease. The kelp forests support a wide range of marine life and play a crucial role in the health of the world's oceans. The destruction of the forests has led to the closure of the recreational red abalone fishery and has affected commercial harvests of red urchins. Scientists are testing various methods to restore the kelp, including removing the urchins and growing kelp in a lab. Early observations show promising results, with healthy patches of kelp and schools of fish returning to areas where urchins have been removed. However, there are still significant challenges to overcome before the kelp forests can fully recover. This year's Heisman finalists are an ode to college football's portal nil era with 3 transfer QBs. Yahoo! This year's Heisman Trophy ceremony will be an ode to the new era of college sports, transformed by the transfer portal and NIL. 3 of the 4 Heisman finalists are quarterbacks who blossomed into stars at their second schools and were having so much fun in college that they decided to stick around an extra year or 2. Police still investigating motive of UNLV shooting, school officials cancel classes, finals. Associated Press. A lone gunman opened fire at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas campus this week, killing 3 faculty members and critically injuring another. The shooter, 67-year-old Anthony Polito, was a tenured associate professor who had been struggling financially. Polito had a target list with him at the time of the shooting, but none of the victims' names were on it. After the shooting, all final exams and in-person classes were cancelled for the semester, and students' final grades will be based on work completed prior to the shooting. Harvard president apologizes for her disastrous testimony at anti-Semitism hearing, Words Matter. CNN. Harvard University's president, Claudine Gay, has apologized for her poor performance at a House of Representatives committee hearing on anti-Semitism on campus, where she failed to explicitly say that calls for the genocide of Jewish people constituted bullying and harassment. Her apology came following criticism that she and other university presidents had not done enough to ensure the safety of Jewish students at their respective institutions. Hedge fund billionaire Bill Ackman has called for her resignation, while major donors and the Wharton board have also called for the resignation of the University of Pennsylvania's president, Liz McGill. One law firm prepared both Penn and Harvard for hearing on anti-Semitism. New York Times. Wilmer Hale law firm prepared 2 university presidents for their congressional testimonies on disciplining students who called for genocide of Jews. The firm, known for its involvement in government investigations, enforcement and crisis management, had previously worked with the three universities. The lawyers reportedly advised the presidents to be cautious of the law and of the headlines that could emerge from the hearing. It felt like home, five-star Alabama commit on what it's like to play at Bryant-Denny Stadium. Yahoo! Five-star high school football player Ryan Williams, who has committed to play for Alabama, played in the AHSAA Class 6A state championship game at the university's Bryant-Denny Stadium. Despite losing the game, Williams put on an impressive performance, scoring all four of his team's touchdowns and setting a new state championship record with 232 receiving yards. Williams said the experience of playing at Bryant-Denny felt like being at home, and he is confident that he will continue to excel at the stadium when he plays for Alabama. Nta scores 11th goal of the season and Notre Dame beats Oregon State to reach College Cup final. Associated Press. Notre Dame beat Oregon State 1-0 in the College Cup semifinals to reach the championship game. Eno Nta scored the only goal of the match in the 51st minute. Notre Dame will face Clemson in the national championship game on Monday. Oregon State was without head coach Greg Dalby and starting midfielder Javier Armas due to violation of NCAA rules. Notre Dame has won 34 straight games when scoring first and has dominated the second half of matches this season. Ladies and gentlemen, I am Dr. Six, your resident observer from the Six Dimensions. Today, we have a diverse range of news stories to discuss, from the UK's battle against immigration to controversies surrounding abortion rights and the presence of the fossil fuel industry at a climate summit. We'll also touch on issues of anti-Semitism on college campuses and the efforts to save California's kelp forests. And of course, we can't forget about college football and the Heisman Trophy. Let's start with UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak's attempt to bring down the country's net migration numbers. Sunak is facing an uphill battle, as the UK's net migration reached a record high in 2022. He is particularly focused on stopping small boat crossings across the English Channel, but his controversial plan to send refugees to Rwanda has been met with opposition from the courts. Sunak risks appearing cruel on the left while also potentially alienating voters who recognize the benefits of migrant labor. Moving on to the Texas Supreme Court's temporary halt on an order allowing a woman to have an abortion. This case involves a woman who discovered her fetus had a genetic condition that cannot sustain life. Her doctor warned that carrying the pregnancy to term could jeopardize her health and future fertility. This case highlights the ongoing battle over abortion rights in the U.S. and the challenges faced by women seeking access to safe and legal abortions. Next, we have the tragic shooting at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, where 3 educators lost their lives. Our thoughts go out to the victims and their families. The motive for the shooting is still under investigation, but it is a reminder of the ongoing issue of gun violence in the U.S. and the need for comprehensive gun control measures. Now, let's talk about the fossil fuel industry's presence at the COP28 climate summit. Critics argue that the companies most responsible for the climate crisis should not be given a seat at the negotiating table. However, others believe that a broad coalition of stakeholders is needed to address the climate crisis. This debate highlights the complexities of tackling climate change and the need for a balanced approach. Shifting gears, we turn to the issue of anti-Semitism on college campuses. 2 Jewish students at the University of Pennsylvania have filed a lawsuit against the institution, alleging that it has become a breeding ground for anti-Jewish hatred and discrimination. This case raises important questions about the responsibility of universities to protect their students and enforce policies against harassment and discrimination. Lastly, we have some lighter news with the Heisman Trophy finalists and college football. This year's finalists are a testament to the changing landscape of college sports, with 3 transfer quarterbacks making it to the Final Four. It's a reflection of the impact of the transfer portal and the new era of college athletics. In conclusion, today's news stories cover a wide range of topics, from immigration and abortion rights to climate change and college football. These issues highlight the challenges and complexities of our world. As always, I encourage you, my dear viewers, to share your thoughts and questions. What are your perspectives on these issues? Let's engage in a lively discussion and learn from one another. Thank you for tuning in. The content above showcases the latest briefing reports and analytical synopses, thoughtfully curated by the 6Do team. These insights stem from a wide array of reputable media outlets, think tanks, government sources, and specialized experts worldwide. We encourage you to explore these sources for a comprehensive perspective. Keep in mind that while the content may not always align with the official standpoint of 6Do Brief, it's not meant to be taken as absolute directives for decision-making. Comprising seasoned media professionals, learned scholars, and accomplished scientists, the 6Do team embodies a trailblazing, fully independent media entity. To customize 6Do Brief to meet your professional needs, you have the option to subscribe to a diverse array of briefings on our website, 6dobrief.com. Regardless of your location, you can conveniently receive 6Do Brief via email.